Hi everyone, welcome to week 11. This week is focused on social class. We'll look at chapters 14, 15, and 18. And with that, let's start it off with engaging homeless students. So here I put up some demographics, but again, homelessness is a complex social issue that crosses all people regardless of race, gender, ability status, documentation status, and sexual orientation. Again, we've had some people, due to the different economic um, issues that have been going on, who were affluent, who did experience homelessness. So again, I think it also can cross socioeconomic levels as well. So again, when we're looking at homelessness, there are three factors. One, which is poverty, and poverty goes back to it's a primary dimension of homelessness. Again, as poverty makes it difficult for individuals and families to provide shelter, food, and security, becoming homeless makes providing these basic needs nearly impossible. So it is such a strain on the social relationships and the worry about finding food and a stable home that poverty kind of keeps that strain going. Secondly, is family conflict. So, with that, may be that a youth may have just what it says, conflict with a parent or a guardian or an adult, and that student leaves the home, and the adult in the home does not care, and or there's abuse, whether it's physical or sexual abuse happening in the home, or the student has been removed by the state due to some type of neglect or abuse, and then they're considered foster kids, and then once they reach the age of adulthood or majority, they're released from foster care, but then may become homeless or have higher likelihood of homelessness. And then school and residential mobility. Due to the homelessness and moving around, students are not in school on a consistent basis or change schools, which then has a negative impact on their cognitive and academic achievements, which then again impedes them from moving forward in certain educational settings. The book goes on to talk about post-secondary education and homeless youth, the fact that the homeless youth and low income youth are similar, and they may encounter similar obstacles when looking at attending post secondary institutions, but federal legislation has come in and has actually created an amendment called Improving Access to Education for Students Who Are Homeless or in Foster Care Act, which then helps these students to get the paperwork completed and complete the process to move forward in their education. One of the theories in the book talks about resiliency, and resiliency is defined basically as um, how someone with personal factors or a negative environment, how they're able to basically overcome it. Plain and simple. There's something about the person within them that they have the ability to continue to move forward no matter how adverse the situation may be. There's three components. One is it goes to the individual characteristics of the child or person. Number two is a close relationship within the family. And three is a certain type of social support and structure outside the family. The personal attribute talks about students who have higher intelligence and an easygoing disposition tend to have higher levels of resiliency. As far as familial support, the book talks about how a student, even though they may have had family conflict and that's why they're not in the home, or if there was a positive relationship between the parent and the student when they were young in those developmental years, that contributes to some of that resiliency. And then the third bullet, which I forgot to add on the slide, talks about institutional support. So if it's a mentor or teacher who also provides those different supports for students, helps the student to move forward. And so some of the student engagement strategies talks about giving homeless students a priority in the selection of on-campus housing, recognizing that homeless youth are part of the campus community and creating resources to meet their unique needs. So a lot of different ways to connect students to move forward. Then we're going to go on to chapter 15, which talks about engaging low income students. And here on the screen, you can see some of those different characteristics. Less likely to persist in college, less likely to earn a degree, less likely to attend college. And the book talks about the data shows that compared with their higher income peers, low income students are more likely to work upwards of 30 hours per week just to take care of themselves. And so, again, with that, um, I don't know why my computer is doing this now. So we're going to look at the theories and concepts that go along with low-income students. So we see here the four hierarchies of need, the four concepts. One being Maslow's, then we have human capital theory. So Maslow's is based on those basic needs, so food and shelter and security. This again could be why students are working up to 30 hours a week is to provide for themselves in those areas, and causes them to not be able to focus on those higher order needs such as education, um, degrees, college degrees to move forward. Human capital theory is looking at weighing out your options and selecting the best one. And again, when the student is looking at working and or engaging in studying for the night or becoming part of a club or organization, the student would probably choose working because that's what provides for them every day and gives them a sense of food and shelter and things of that nature. Also, we have cultural relevancy and post-structuralism. So cultural relevancy is again looking at ways of modifying programs and services that actually um, have a connection or mean something for low-income students to be able to become a part of those organizations. So they don't see the reasons why they should be engaged, they will not do so. And then post-structuralism is just what it says, is looking at those biases, looking past a traditional student and looking at students who don't fit into that traditional framework, and what can the college or institution do to provide more support and services for those students who don't fit within that structure. Some general recommendations is that ensuring that students' basic financial needs are met. Also, and that means that helping students understand balancing out working and going to school. If you're working too many hours and you're not able to really focus on your education. Also focus on engagement in the classroom. So again, looking at first year programs, learning communities, again, ways to help students um, to engage further in the classroom. Lastly, we're looking at our commuter and part-time students. And the book talks about that low income and commuter and part-time students sometimes fall into the same category. So again, they represent 85% of U.S. college students. These can be adults with careers. And then we look at attendance. More and more students attend part-time. Again, this is due to outside responsibilities. They may be a parent, a spouse, they may be both. They may need to take the caretaker for their family. They alternate semesters and stop out to work and focus on family. There are some common needs and concerns as far as with part-time and commuter students. First being transportation. So again, when you're living off campus, you have to drive or bike, or whatever that may be, catch the bus. And when you look at things such as weather, to me, even when you look at if you overslept, a simple thing is oversleeping. If you live on campus and class starts at 10 and you wake up at 9:45, you could probably make it there. If you live 20 minutes away from campus and you wake up at 9:45, by the time you get up, you get dressed, and you have to go through traffic, depending on the time of day, you may have missed that course. So you have a higher likelihood of not attending classes. Those multiple life roles I talked about earlier from low income is again, you may be the provider for your family. There's just so many different so many different things that you're juggling at that time. A full-time employee, a parent, a single parent, a spouse, a caretaker, and also looking at ways to integrate support networks. So, community students often identify the lack of supportive networks on campus, and so again, looking at ways to support them on and off, and if that means that can come from the partner, parents, children, siblings, things of that nature. And then lastly, having that sense of belonging. Every student wants to belong, regardless if they say they do or don't. Everyone wants to be part of the overall pie. And so many commuter and part-time students say that they don't feel as though they belong. They're just there to take a class or two classes and they're back out the door. So again, for colleges and universities, look at ways to really create a sense of belonging for students. There are some theories and concepts that go along with the commuter and part-time student. One being mattering and marginality. Again, mattering is the feeling that others care and are concerned with their well-being. So the students want to know they matter, that people care. But at the same time, because there's a lack of supportive services in colleges and universities, they feel marginalized. So again, the institution may reinforce that we don't want you here when really they do, but the student may perceive as I don't really belong. So it kind of all starts to fall in with itself. If there's not support service and students don't feel like they belong, they're marginalized, they may not come back, they may not feel welcomed. So again, for institutions to look at that marginality piece of it, what can we do to make this better? The transition theory talks about any event or non-event that changes relationships, routines, or assumptions. So from being that full-time employee who decides, I need to take a degree program to open up to the next door for that promotion, that changes their relationships, their routines, their assumptions. For anyone that's going through this, it's restructuring your priorities, which takes more priority than the other, or finding balance between the two. And then lastly, we're going to talk about ACEL's stages of institutional integration. And again, here it just talks about that there's 3 different stages that institutions look at when they are regarding commuter and part-time students. There's a laissez-faire stage where institutions simply remove obvious barriers or constraints and permit students to do the best they can within a system that works neither for nor against them. And so it's kind of just a lackadaisical way of doing it. And there's a separatist stage, which is certain groups of students, commuters on residential campuses, part-time students, when most attend full-time, are essentially separate from the majority of the student body. So that means separate specific programs and services are offered for them, but these programs and services have lower institutional priority and status than traditional ones. And then there's equity stage, where institutions should strive to be more equitable in this nature, meaning they actively use this principle of justice and fairness to correct inequities in a system that the de facto discriminates against one group in favor of another. So again, institutions should look at evolving to being more fair, more inclusive to all groups of students, because as we've read through this book, there's so many different groups of students and there's so many different barriers and obstacles, but at the same time, there's also different ways to engage students. And so again, there are some student engagement strategies for commuter and part-time students, and one talks about recruitment and admissions, looking at ways to early impressions of the degree in which a student will fit into the institution. So again, providing true brochures or information about transfers, I don't want to say transfer students, I'm sorry, commuter students or part-time students and what's available for them, financial and employment. So students may be able to, again, work on campus. So again, it's going back to engaging them on the employment side and still on the academic side. New student orientation that helps to overview all the services and supports offered in the college. So again, this was just a quick overview. This is like my 4th time recording. I kept running out of time, so I apologize for if this seems a little rushed. I just wanted to make sure I got all of the information in this time around. So again, enjoy this week and have a happy Sunday. Goodbye.